Sup, y'all, and welcome to Press on Sports. I'm Jack Vita. Today is May 29th. It's an early morning podcast this morning, 9:15 a.m. I enjoy the early mornings. Fun. My guest today, he's out at 7:15 a.m., so he's really committed to coming on the show. I'm very thankful for that. I'll bring him in a second. Today we're going to be talking about the NBA Finals, the previous Eastern and Western Conference Finals. There's so much to talk about with the NBA, and it's hard to believe that it's been so long since we've talked about the NBA on this podcast. So that will be a lot of fun. If you missed last week's episode, I had a great time recording with Rachel Gerhardt, and we talked about a lot of reality shows such as The Bachelorette, The Amazing Race, Survivor, The Challenge. We also talked a little bit of SNL, so if any of that piques your interest, go back and listen to that. It should be, I think you'll enjoy it. We had some fun conversation. Today we'll also, in addition to the NBA talk, my guest and I will be talking a little bit about life. We'll talk a little bit about American Ninja Warrior because he competed on the show. So it'll be a lot of fun, and without much further ado, I am going to welcome in our guest for today. He has the most downloaded episode in Press on Sports history, Parker Gatewood. How you doing, Parker?
Man, Jack, I am absolutely fantastic. It is 7:15 in Las Vegas, and I am wide awake, so I'm ready to go. I'm excited for this podcast. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling good. It's been pretty cold here, at least the last couple days. Very rainy here in Chicago, so not the biggest fan of that, but it's always fun talking to you. That always brightens my day.
Dude, me too. And it's always bright here, so I'm sorry to hear that it's still cold out there and that nothing has changed since my departure.
So we will talk a little bit about what's going on in your life a little later. You want to get into this NBA stuff first?
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Okay, Parker. I know you're a big-time NBA fan, and I'm gonna be honest here. I did not watch anywhere near as much NBA this season as I normally do.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Do you have any reasons why you think that is?
Well, so it's an interesting season, right? Because it's the third year in a row that people have felt like the Golden State Warriors will cruise to a title, and we'll get into that later, I'm assuming, how, that could be the case again. So that takes away some of the fun. I think a lot of times entering a season, one thing that really sparks people's interest is rookie class and draftees. I think for the majority of the year, there was one, Luka Doncic, who was really exciting, and then Trae Young kind of came along towards the second half of the season, so that kind of took a little steam out. But overall, I mean, yeah, it just wasn't quite as exciting as it was last year, I don't think, and that's also because the team that LeBron James was on struggled, and people love LeBron, so
yeah, that's a good point. I think the big thing is, like you said, 2 years ago, we didn't necessarily know what the Warriors were going to be because they were coming off a finals loss, and there were a lot of questions about how are these guys going to gel. So there was a lot of intrigue then, and now we see them win back-to-back titles, and now they're very close to winning a third. I think that's turned off a lot of people and sucked out a lot of the excitement for them, and that was the case for me. And then the other fact of just having so many star players resting in the regular season, I was just sort of like, all right, I'll come back for the playoffs, and it's been a fun playoff so far.
Yeah, it really has. I was actually pretty surprised at how excited and interested I was in the playoffs. I mean, obviously when you look at the East, it's always you look at it like, okay, teams 5 through 8, probably not going to do much. So we know where that's going. And then with the West, again, the Warriors are there, so you're like, well, whatever. But it turned into quite the interesting turn of events when, like the Clippers took 2 games from the Warriors early, and the Trailblazers and the Thunder had that back back and forth. It was exciting. And then when eventually the Rockets got to play the Warriors, it gave the world false hope that they'd beat them again. But yeah, and the East was exciting too because you had four teams that I think that was the most exciting thing about the East was that you had four teams, and in the second round, everyone was like, okay, I have no idea actually out of these four who's going to end up in the finals, and now we know.
Yeah, the East was very cool. I missed a lot of the West Coast games, and that could partly be because the games were on so late.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we knew, like you said, we had a pretty good inclination of who was going to be coming out of the West. So, this Eastern Conference playoffs, I love these Eastern Conference finals. I'm a big fan of just watching Kawhi Leonard play. And this isn't first take. We're not going to get into the super hot takes of how great of a player he is. But I do like the fact that this is a guy, and tell me what you think of this, Parker. This is a guy that is so humble and just puts his head down and works. He doesn't have to toot his own horn, which is seemingly the trend in the NBA today. This is a guy who just keeps his head down and works, and eventually people notice. I like that idea of the whole act like you've been there before, and he's been there before. He's won a championship, and I'm glad people are starting to take notice of just how great a player this guy is.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that this season for Kawhi Leonard has been huge, not only for him as a player, but how he's seen around the league, because I think after the San Antonio debacle where, he sits out the entire year and people really speculate, okay, is he actually hurt? Is he just trying to spite what's going on in San Antonio? And I think there were a lot of questions raised about that. But now, he comes in to Toronto, to a good team after a big trade, and you would think that, okay, him and DeMar DeRozan will kind of offset each other a little bit, but that wasn't even the case. I mean, he was clearly the best player on the team. He was clearly the leader of the team. And now, as we're seeing, he's clearly one of the top at least three players in the league right now. And you could debate top players for forever. But
yeah, we won't go down that road.
Yeah, right. But the Raptors have been so interesting, and it's because of him. Because they've always been interesting. They've been good. They've been able to get to the conference finals. But this is uncharted territory. They've never been to the finals in the franchise's history. So I think the fact that, Kawhi Leonard could lead this team, particularly this team, to this spot in this day, I think it's special.
Yeah, in the fact of we haven't even touched on his defense, which is magnificent. It's amazing. This is a guy who really dominates the game on both ends in a way that personally, Parker, I don't think I've seen before in this league. He's Scottie Pippen like defensively, and then he has an offensive game that I think is one of the best in the league. I don't think that's much of a hot take, but to see a guy do what he does on both ends, I love watching that. It's a lot of fun, and yeah, it's really cool that we're going to have him on this big stage against the Warriors, where he's played well against the Warriors in the past. Unfortunately, Zaza cheap shotted him and took him out of the Western Conference Finals a couple years ago.
Zaza, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, this dude really, he's special. And you look at, what he's been able to do in the postseason particularly. He's averaging 31 points a game. He's averaging almost 9 rebounds. I feel like people lose shooting numbers a little bit nowadays, and I don't mean just 3-point shooting. I mean like all three and how they correlate with each other. Because someone could be a great 3-point shooter but have a terrible field goal percentage, and then I'm like, okay, well, that's not super impressive then. But if like your field goal, 3-point, and free throw percentage all line up, I think that's really impressive because then it shows, okay, no, this person can actually like shoot for real.
Yeah.
And Kawhi in the postseason is shooting 50% from the field. He's shooting 38.8, so almost 40% from three. and 87.5% from the free throw line.
Wow.
Like, I mean, this dude's a baller. Like you said, I think just because of his style of play, he's not super flashy. Like, we lose sometimes just how special of a player he is. And on defense, yeah, I mean, you're right. I would, if you were like, hey, fantasy draft, entire league, pick someone you want as your first defender, I would probably pick Kawhi Leonard.
That brings up an interesting point. If we were in a spot where we said, we're not going to do okay, you have a guy for 10 years and you're drafting any superstar you want, but let's say 4 years.
Okay.
I would be very tempted to pick Kawhi because he's coming into his own. Well, he has been for a couple of years, but we talk about defense, we talk about offense, and there's no drama with this guy.
All right.
This is not a guy who's posting weird stuff on social media, unfollowing his teammates, and trying to really promote himself, which we see from a lot of guys across this league. I would be so tempted to pick him just because of what he can do on both ends. And he doesn't seem fazed by the media of what people are saying about him, which can't say about everyone.
Yeah, no, honestly. Yeah, and if you take Kawhi Leonard, does Drake come as a package deal? Because
I don't know if I want Drake.
Because he seems like he's working right now. It's okay. I'll take Drake in a music draft. That's fine. I think Kawhi, like, you would be hard pressed to not pick him if you talked about that kind of time span, because as much as I love Kevin Durant, and actually that's not true. I don't like Kevin Durant, so I don't know why I said that. But as much as I like Kevin Durant's game, there it is.
Yeah.
I don't think that if you were like, hey, KD or Kawhi for 4 years, who do you want? I don't think I could take Kevin Durant just on talent alone, because I don't want to deal with the media backlash and the burner Twitter accounts and to be quite honest, we still have yet to see what Kevin Durant's going to do leading a team by himself
On his own,
right?
Yeah, as a superstar.
So I haven't seen that yet. I mean, obviously you have in Oklahoma City and they got to a finals, but that was a while ago. Now, how does it translate after being on this dynasty team for a few years is my question. And with Kawhi, he was the best player on an aging Spurs team. He's already a finals MVP. He now has led a Toronto team that's never been to the finals, and arguably could be the best player in the playoffs right now. So, yeah, if you gave me that, it's hard for me also to have this conversation and not be like, oh, I'd take LeBron James, because I think it's going to be a big bounce back year next year. But I would probably take Kawhi at this point.
Okay, very interesting. I like how we're talking about this in a non-hot take fashion, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, Kawhi Leonard is Michael Jordan, but better. No thanks. I'll pass.
All right, so I want to say something else you were touching on a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the makeup of this Raptors team. I think it's really cool for Kawhi to be in this situation, because there was a narrative that previously existed with, okay, he fell into the perfect situation with the Spurs, which might be true. However, I don't necessarily think it's true, and I think we're seeing that now. There was a lot of people who were wondering, well, what's he going to do outside of this system? Is he a system player? Is he a true superstar? And he's destroyed that narrative in Toronto. And what I like about this Toronto team, it felt like in the past, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan were co-stars. Would you say that they were co-stars?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that there was a clear, edge for DeMar DeRozan, but I don't think it was a huge gap. I think they were co-stars, yeah.
Yeah, and now you have Kyle Lowry in a spot where he's a sidekick, and I like him a lot as a sidekick. I thought he played pretty well in these playoffs. Now, you got a lot of other contributions from other guys. We could go down the list with Fred VanVleet and Siakam and Gasol and Ibaka. What really drew me into this series with the Bucks was just the idea that you had a true superstar showdown. You have Giannis versus Kawhi. They each have a sidekick in Middleton and Lowry, and then a bunch of really good role players. This is just classic 90s NBA, which, in my opinion, was a golden era. Well, I guess you could go back to the 80s, which was also pretty great. But that was something that I was really excited about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's the Raptors' makeup is interesting in that it changed in a pretty drastic way mid-season, and it also changed two big changes. It changed before the season, and then it changed mid-season. So, like, you would think with that, okay, we always talk about when players get traded or free agency, how, okay, it's going to take at least 2-3 weeks for chemistry to kick in, and they'll get it going, like, blah, blah, blah. But this team, they gelled right out the gate with Kawhi Leonard, and then, continued to even progress further once they traded away Jonas Valanciunas and brought in Marc Gasol, which is another interesting tidbit. How he's gone from, like secondary star to not. But but between Leonard, Siakam, Lowry, Ibaka, Marc Gasol, I mean, this team has a lot of weapons. And you know what I'm surprised about, Jack, is that, like, how this team has done this, and some of their, some players that you would usually get big contributions from, you haven't, like someone like a Danny Green, right? And even Serge Ibaka plays a little bit of a bigger role than he's used to in these playoffs, where he's only averaging like 8 and 6. So it's been cool to see that, and I'm glad that Kyle Lowry has kind of figured things out working into the finals, because I would really hope that this series could go at least 6 games. Yeah. But to your point about Kawhi earlier, is coming into the season when we had these questions about what he was going to do, and coming from a different team, and you mentioned that he was in the perfect fit in the system and everything, and I think you were right to assume that that wasn't the case, and that he was just a great player and everything. But I think a lot of us did. Like, for me, I know if you would have gave me a list of NBA players, I may have taken like 4 or 5 people above Kawhi Leonard at the start of the season. Like, I would have been like, okay, give me LeBron, give me Giannis, give me Kevin Durant, give me Steph, and then I would have been like maybe James Harden, but James Harden doesn't really do the defense thing, so I'd probably take Kawhi over James Harden. But now it's like, oh, I wouldn't take any of those guys over Kawhi at this point, So it's been cool.
Yeah, I think that was a pretty mainstream thought. Now, what do you think? I want to talk. We'll get to a little bit of stuff with the Bucks in a second, but what do you think about this idea in terms of? Do you think Kawhi has been? I'm not going to say hurt, but part of the reason he hasn't gotten that recognition is because he's not promoting himself.
Yeah, it could be. It is, in an age where we're all over social media, and that's where, we go for not only scores and stats and following games, but for news, not just about players' games, but about their lives, and they can just give it to us right there. That's what's so different about the age, is that, like, 10, 20, whatever years ago, when social media wasn't popping, and Twitter specifically, you'd have to go to team websites and ESPN and all these places to try to find out stuff about people. Now it's like, I found out yesterday that Taco Tuesday is a big thing in the James household. Like, you can find out anything about these people. So that, yeah, the fact that Kawhi doesn't really do those kinds of things, and he doesn't, give a ton in interviews, is it could be part of it. But I think what's so cool about that now is that, like, he doesn't do any of that. And here we are now talking about him all the time just because his game did that.
I think that's very refreshing.
Yes, completely.
This is leading us into an interesting category, Parker. Let me ask you, in terms of showmanship versus sportsmanship, where do you, I'm not saying what's right and what's wrong, what do you prefer in the sense of what do you gravitate to?
Well, look, I'm always going to be a sportsmanship person. My granddad was the manager of the Angels and the A's, and he was a huge disciplinarian. You know, if players talked back in a certain way, they were running. Like, if they did things that weren't, good for the team and didn't hold themselves accountable, they were running or, doing all these different things. And so sportsmanship and good conduct and all that, that's always been top priority for me. Obviously, sports in general have changed, and there is a lot of more, showmanship. It's a lot flashier. It's different because it's part of the game. So I understand it, but I'm always going to be on the sportsmanship side, Jack. Like the other day, I was at my little brother's AAU basketball game, and one of his teammates, they were killing this team. They were up by like 40, like 50 or something like that. Yeah, they're pretty good. And so, and this kid on his team took this dude to the lane and basically muscled his way in there and laid it up. And on his way back, he did the Westbrook thing and like rocked the baby. I'm like, what do you? First of all, kid, you're 15. Second of all, like, what are you doing? You're up by 45. This is ridiculous. So I'm always going to react that way to those kinds of things. I'm a big sportsmanship person, so that's why it's refreshing to see like a Kawhi Leonard do these kinds of things. Or like, I was always a big Mike Conley fan. I think he's kind of similar in that regard. And obviously, Kobe Bryant is the same way. Greatest of all time. No, that's not true. But
Parker's a Lakers fan. That's why he's throwing that out there.
I'm a big Lakers fan. I'm a big Kobe fan. Kobe's my favorite athlete of all time. But no, sportsmanship's always for me. And I assume it's the same way for you?
Yeah, it is. I think this is an interesting conversation to have, considering what Major League Baseball is trying to push. I don't know if you saw this ad with Tim Anderson, the White Sox shortstop. I'm guessing you didn't.
I know. I think I remember it coming across Twitter. Refresh me.
Yeah. So famously or infamously, about a month ago, he hit a home run and he threw his bat. He didn't bat flip. He chucked his bat.
Yes.
He yelled some racial slur, which we don't necessarily know. He got suspended for the racial slur, which is unacceptable behavior. He chucked his bat, and then a lot of people got upset because he got drilled in the butt, which, Parker, when you and I played baseball, that's what I was brought up. If you do that stuff, be ready for what's coming your way in the batter's box.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was the same for you.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's part of the baseball's famous unwritten rules, right?
Yeah. So there's an ad now where Tim Anderson says, "Baseball is boring. Watch me change it." And then he chucks his bat. And this is coming from a lifetime 260 hitter. This is not coming from Mike Trout. This is just,
right.
I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I would agree, man. That's like, I mean, granted, people do view baseball as boring, but yeah, if you're not, if Mike Trout did that, even Bryce Harper, who's not having the best year, like, but if one of the stars did something like that, I think that's different. I think Tim Anderson, just because of how much he's been, on social media and in the news and stuff like that, maybe he is the person to do something like that. But very, very interesting take.
Yeah, in baseball, is a game that humbles you. It seems whenever a guy does this kind of stuff, he's due for a 1 for 30 stretch.
Right. It's always how the things work.
Well, let's go back to the NBA. That was a fun little detour we took there.
Yeah.
So looking at the Bucks, we'll talk a little bit about what Toronto did defensively, which was masterful, very fun to watch. Looking at this offseason, Parker, as someone who is, I think you still ball, right? You play a lot?
A little bit, yeah. I train my little stepbrother, so we're trying to get him ready for high school and eventually college. But so I do a lot more training than I do playing nowadays, but I still play. And I always will be a big basketball person just all around.
Guys, Parker is an amazing basketball player.
Stop.
Can you still dunk?
Yeah, I can get up there. I haven't tried to throw down in a while, but I can definitely get above the rim, yes.
All right, so since you're working with training stuff, what do you think Giannis needs to work on this summer in order for the Bucks to get to that next level?
Well, I think that's, the obvious answer is 3-point shooting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone can see that from a mile away. If you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo right now, you're looking at a pretty much perfect basketball player besides one thing. Now, does he need to work on free throw shooting a little bit as well? Yes. But Giannis, I think for the majority of the year, and he might end up being the MVP this year, I hope, because I would rather James Harden not get it. But
if Kawhi played more games, I would vote Kawhi, but he sat like 25 games. So.
Yeah, and that's why I wish we could also account for the postseason because it matters. Let's not kid ourselves, it matters. But then again, whatever, it's fine.
If you're going to release the award after the postseason, then yeah. But if they went back to just releasing it in April, I kind of like the little juice you'd get when you'd have a series where a guy's ticked off. Oh man, that guy got MVP. I'm going up against him. I'm gonna show him up. Let's go.
Yeah, right. No, for real. Giannis is interesting because he could really easily be the best player in basketball if he did get a jump shot, and not even a super great three right out the bat, but just one that people have to respect.
Yeah,
because dudes legitimately give this guy from 3-point line to a little bit below the free throw line of space. I mean, that's a ton of space especially for Giannis, who could probably make that in one step. But that guy, if he gets a 3-point shot over the summer, and that's so hard to ask from someone, to add something lethal to your game in 3 months, that's hard to do. But, when you look at him overall as a player, the dude averaged almost 28 points, 12.5 rebounds, even free throw percentage, he shot 73% from the line, which it's not great, but it is good. So he blocks shots. He steals the basketball. His field goal percentage is sensational. It's 57. The one thing that this dude needs to get a little better at is 3-point shooting. And if he can get to a point where it's respected and he can knock down a couple in a row so guys actually do have to step up, then we're looking at something scary, and we are probably looking at a different team in the finals right now.
It's a good point. He's also only 24.
Yeah, true.
The steps he's taken over I think he's been in the league 6 years now. Right? 6 years?
Yeah,
6 years.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so 6 years in the league, what he came in as a project, where he's gotten to has just been amazing. So, I don't know. I feel like there was a little bit of pressure on him, just in the sense of there's always going to be pressure when you're the 1 seed and you're the best player on that team. But I do think there are a couple things, like you said, with the jump shooting, free throw shooting, that he could work on. And I don't think he's quite there yet in terms of, I think he will win MVP. We'll see what happens. But, I mean, a lot of people, like yourself, were expecting him over Kawhi, I think, right? You said that earlier?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I chose the Bucks in that series. I thought that it would be close. I thought it would go 7, but I thought that the Bucks would win just because of home court. And then, lose 1 on your home court, and then Kawhi took care of the rest. So,
yeah. We can't reiterate enough that Kawhi is where Kawhi's at with his game in terms of being more polished. Giannis can get there. We'll see what happens. It'll be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to if he does come back and he can hit a respectable three-point shot and they have to come out on the perimeter, that's going to change a lot of things. That's going to open up a lot of opportunities for the Bucks offense. What'd you think about this defense that Nick Nurse had the Raptors running in this series?
It was pretty masterful, the way they moved around and switched and defended Giannis especially to play to his weaknesses. Nick Nurse is a really good coach, and I wasn't surprised in the playoffs by the way he coached and how successful they were because we saw it in the regular season. But I was surprised just because going into the season I was like, I didn't know a ton about Nick Nurse.
Yeah, me neither.
But then as the season progressed and we got into the playoffs, I wasn't surprised that they did as well as they did because he's a really good coach. They have a really good team. I mean, and that's another thing, Jack, that is something to point out is that I think about a third of the way into the season, we had looked at the Raptors like they were a team that could beat the Warriors. And I don't know what happened along the way, but then it just kind of turned into, that the Warriors were going to run it again or whatever. But we had gotten to a point in the season where we looked at the Raptors, and I think they had the best record in basketball at one point. They were like really running things, and we were like, oh, this team has a shot. And I think then when you couple how good the Warriors looked with the Bucks being the number 1 seed, and then the Sixers adding Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler and all that, then that's, I think, when we kind of forgot about the Raptors. And now here we are, and that same kind of storyline that was played out earlier in the season is going to unfold.
We all had a forgot about Dre moment.
We forgot about Kawhi. That's what we did. Darn it. Every time.
Or forgot about Drake.
Oh, word. Oh, gosh. Forgot about Drake. Oh, goodness. Just don't invite Pusha T, because then we'll really forget about Drake. That's fine.
I don't know. Tell me, Parker, I'm not alone in this. Whenever I hear the name Nick Nurse, I always think of former Valpo basketball player Nick Davidson.
Nick Davidson, yes. My guy. That guy's awesome. Yeah, because his name was Nick, and he majored in nursing. That's true. That's awesome. I actually did not think of that. When I thought of Nick Nurse, I always just thought of a nurse, honestly. But but that's a good point because you combine the two in that one. That's hilarious.
I love Nick Davidson. He's an awesome guy.
I was just saying, cool.
What's going to need to happen in order for Toronto to take down Golden State? Is it possible?
Boy, I personally don't think so. I think it's about as foregone as we all think it is. But at the same time, if this is someone we're all calling maybe the best player in basketball, best two players in basketball, you got to give them a puncher's chance. And this is, everything has to go right. It's a lot of ifs in this scenario, but
got to play a perfect series.
If they play a perfect series, if the same Kawhi that's been playing shows up, if Kyle Lowry doesn't shrink, if Pascal Siakam plays as the most improved player that he's been, and their defense continues, and Danny Green can knock down some shots, it's like, what is that, like 5 ifs or something? But if all those things, happen, then they have a chance. And that's the scary thing, is like, if all those things happen, they have a chance. But that's it. That's not like they win. It's because of how good the Golden State Warriors are. I don't know, man. And I hope I'm wrong. Let's just put that out there. With this prediction, I hope I'm completely wrong and have to look back on this and be like, dang, I should really evaluate how I look at basketball because I'm not very good at it. Like, I hope that's what happens, but I don't think it will. I think the Warriors will win in 6. They're so good, man. They people forgot they were so good without KD and DeMarcus Cousins. Like, they say, also underrated storyline since we're talking about the Raptors and the Warriors. Patrick McCaw, who is now on the Raptors, has never missed an NBA Finals since he's been in the league. So, wow. and also worth noting, Jack, and big time worth noting, do you know where Patrick McCaw went to college?
I don't.
He went to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
Oh, there you go, UNLV.
Like, literally,
One in Rebels.
The only good thing to ever come out of UNLV. Like, no, I'm just kidding.
Larry Johnson?
Yeah. No, there's been a couple.
Stacey Augmon?
Sean Marion. Yeah, there've been a couple. There've been good ones, but UNLV does not
Anthony
produce.
Bennett?
Oh, okay, all right. In their case and point, like, no. But yeah, that's I'm a big Patrick McCaw guy for that reason.
That's awesome. So, what I'm looking at, here's the thing. I'm not expecting a whole lot. I'm not expecting Toronto to win, but I do think these games are going to be much more fun to watch than they've been in recent years. I think it's going to be really fun to just watch the defensive sequences that Toronto throws at them. I like defense in sports, so I think that's going to be exciting and fun to watch. We should get a couple of... Look, Kawhi, you did throw in that Michael Jordan comparison earlier as a joke. I'm not going down that road. What I am saying is one of Michael Jordan's most iconic performances was when he put up 63 in the Garden and lost. Maybe you get some great play from Kawhi in this series, even if they lose. It's okay to lose sometimes. Sometimes we can have some, I'm saying from the entertainment perspective, sometimes when a team loses, you could still see some good basketball played.
Yeah, you could even turn to like when LeBron was arguably the best player in the finals against the Warriors, and everyone was thinking he should get the finals MVP even though they lost.
Yeah, I wasn't on board with that MVP narrative. However, that is comparable, and that was an iconic performance. So the other point I was going to bring up, you talked about what could happen. If Toronto can play defense the way they've played, they can make things interesting. I'll make one potential perfect case scenario comparison to a previous great defensive team that won a championship. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Is it the Detroit Pistons?
Yes.
In 2004? Yeah.
Yep. That was a team that should not have won that series if you're just looking at pieces and talent, because while they had a lot of very, very good players, and Rasheed Wallace was probably the superstar guy that you look at in terms of the guy on that team, the other team had 4 Hall of Famers.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, obviously, it's a little different because they didn't have the same cohesiveness that Golden State has right now. But that was sometimes, and it happens every, 10 years, sometimes that one team that is not better comes together and plays a great series, and we all scratch our heads. So in sports, anything can happen. People can hold out hope. I'm not holding out too much hope, but I think nevertheless this is going to be a fun series to watch. Yeah,
I would agree. I think it is going to be fun. I think you're spot on with we could see some spectacular moments from Kawhi. I mean, even think about the game where he had, 40 like 5 points or whatever it was on like 39 shots or whatever, where he basically did everything. I mean, we could see stuff like that. And in fairness, the comparison to the '04 Pistons team, I think that is kind of similar, just because of how the teams are constructed, where like the Raptors are, this underdog team to a team that has 3 superstars and huge star power. I think the big difference is that '04 Pistons team was really well-rounded, and there wasn't quite a Kawhi on that team.
Yeah.
I think that the Raptors are more centered around him. But, yeah, look, I mean, teams that play defense, the Raptors cannot play defense any worse than the Trailblazers did on the Warriors. So as long as they step up, and the Trailblazers arguably could have won 3 of those games. So,
True.
like, if they step up and play just a little bit better, like, maybe they got a puncher's chance. We'll see.
We will see. Do you have any other thoughts on the finals or NBA as a whole, or do you want to move on?
Man, honestly, I'm waiting for next year for the Lakers to. I'm waiting for this dysfunction to end, and then just watch the Lakers again. I'm hoping free agency is not a bust, even though it probably will be. I will be excited to see where people go. That'll be fun. But nah, man, I'll be excited to start watching these games tomorrow.
Yeah, the player movement is so weird in the NBA because a lot of people look at it as a positive. However, what's it say when people are looking at that as the most exciting part of the NBA?
Yeah.
So it could also be a negative. We'll see. It's always fun though in the summer.
Oh yeah, I mean, phones go crazy, Twitter blows up, especially around draft day. And now that I heard they moved up the free agency to like June 30th at 6 p.m. or something like that. So, yeah, so that's really interesting. And hopefully the Lakers can take home somebody at least.
We will see. Parker, let's talk some other stuff. How's your life going? You moved out to Las Vegas. How's that going? What's going on?
Yeah, man, dude. Oh, it's all good out here, man. I'm just super thankful and happy to be home right now. I lived in Orlando for 10 months, and I'd been away from my family for about 7 years since I went away to college, and really only got to see them like 2 times a year, really, like come home and see them. And so now I'm back at home. I do get to see my family all the time. I'm working part-time for an obstacle course racing and CrossFit gym, and have just started some work for a place called the Las Vegas Circus Center. So I have no complaints, man. God has always been good to me. I've never, I've never doubted that he'll always work things out. And so far, I have no complaints. I'm super happy to be home and doing all the things that I enjoy.
That's awesome. What has God been putting on your heart? What's he been teaching you lately?
A lot of patience, man. A lot of that. Like, because it's interesting, right? Because like Orlando was great in that I found my gym, Ninja Fit Gym, which lit the fire and sparked that is something that I legitimately want to do and could do for years and years and years, is be a coach and work with kids and do all that. And I love making videos. I still very much enjoy being a videographer. It's cool. It pays better. Like it's but I worked for a PR and marketing firm in Orlando and did videography for them. And honestly, dude, it was just like the worst period.
Oh no.
It was terrible. It was awful. I turned into like a front desk person, really, who did like videos, kind of. And so that was just, I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so that's when I kind of decided, you know what? that happened, and God had been putting on my mind that it might be time to move back home, which when I left for college, when I left for Valpo, I said I'm never coming back to Las Vegas.
Oh.
But and that's just because of, what it is as a city, and like I wouldn't raise my family here. I still would not raise my family here. But now that I'm 25, living here is easier. But here I am back, but it's like the best thing. And, God's been great in terms of help guiding me along this path of patience and just waiting things out, and have had to, struggle a bit and lose a good amount of money and all these different things. But, as low as things have gotten, it's always been okay, because I'm like, he's got, like, I'm like, yo, you got this. I understand. It's cool. Just, keep pointing me. Keep pointing and I'll go. Like, it's cool. So now that I'm here, I'm just happy, man. I live a very happy life right now. Things are good. I have no complaints.
Amen. That's great. That's awesome.
And you, sir, I know you have had quite the road and have had to, focus on patience, and I'm sure just, even faith in general. You've had to have a ton of that. And I'm glad to hear, that you have been able to heal and in the position you're in, but what about you in terms of the recovery and surgery and all that stuff?
Well, first of all, Parker, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Second, yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about this. So, for those who don't know, I've mentioned it on the last couple podcast episodes. I had to have my thyroid taken out about a little over 3 months ago. Hard to believe it's been almost 4 months.
Yeah.
For treatment of Graves' disease, a thyroid disease that had been keeping me on the disabled list for a little while, kept me from looking for work after college, and really, I feel you on the patience. It's funny. I don't know if you've heard this saying, but if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
That's good. No, I haven't heard that. That's awesome.
There have been so many times where I have been trying to write my own path and be planning certain things, and it doesn't go my way, and then I get upset. But as cliche as it sounds, when that happens, it's only because God has something so much better in store. For so long, I did not want to have this thyroid surgery. I just felt like, you know what? If I keep taking this medication that I've been taking, eventually I'll feel better, right? That's how I was feeling.
Right.
But God led me into the path of surgery after much prayer. It felt like that was clearly where he was pointing me. Now I can say that the disease is entirely gone because I no longer have a thyroid. Believe it or not, you can't have a thyroid disease when you no longer have a thyroid.
Wow.
And I've been taking the synthetic thyroid hormone, slowly getting better. I'm back at a point where I can podcast now, back to exercising. I just did a 12-mile bike ride last week. And
wow, big ups to you.
Thanks. I mean, I'm not quite the ninja you are, but...
No, fitness, though, man. I'll tell you, 12 miles of anything, that's a lot. That's impressive.
Yeah, it is. It is very tiring. But God's taught me so much patience because I've had so many points where I've come out of surgery and I've had people in my life who... Look, they mean well. It doesn't end up being the best thing for me, but sometimes they're asking right away, right after surgery or a month into my recovery, when are you going to get a job? You got your resume ready? You good to go? You're feeling better now, right? And when someone has autoimmune disease, it's really easy to look at them and think, wow, they look fine, but they're not necessarily feeling fine on the inside. So for me, I've just had to trust God. And there were a lot of times during my recovery where I felt really bogged down. And there'd be times where I'd try to write a blog or I'd be like, oh, I want to do a podcast, but my voice was very hoarse after having neck surgery. I mean, the surgery was in my neck. So
right.
Yeah. There were a lot of times where I'd want to do stuff and I couldn't do it, and then I get really down on myself. But God just kept saying, look, stay patient. It's okay. It's good to rest. You're supposed to have a Sabbath day. That time of rest is just a great time to be in the Word, be in prayer, listen to what God's trying to tell you, and trust Him. And since then, God's been slowly giving me direction in terms of what I should be doing as I recover. I'm doing a little bit of dog walking now. I am doing a business where I sell people's textbooks for them. God has really taught me a lot in terms of being patient, like He's been teaching you, and also being thankful in all circumstances.
Totally. That's so cool. I didn't know you did the dog walking thing too. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a new gig.
That's super cool, man. That's cool. It's plans, as much as we try to dictate them, like, if whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And I'm, again, just very, very thankful that you've been able to get back to, a better state and can live without a thyroid. That's cool.
Yeah, very thankful for doctors and medical professionals who know exactly what they're doing, and God can speak to us through those people, and yeah, lots of great stuff.
Super cool.
So, yeah, things are on the upswing. I think you and I both are kind of in unconventional situations where we don't have that super glamorous job that a lot of people might get right out of college. And there have been times where I felt myself idolizing that, wanting my life to be like other people, or being jealous. And I'm at a point now where I'm just so thankful for the route that God has been leading me on, because it's exactly what I've needed in terms of my personal and spiritual growth. And He's exactly with my health too, because had my I could, if I had accepted a great job and all of a sudden just started feeling really sick, I would have had to give up that job, and that would have been hard. So I know everything's coming together wonderfully, and I know that you've had to trust God through some of your changes, and I'm glad you're able to see some of the harvest from that, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it completely does, man. Like, honestly, I do think about that a lot, because I did have a place where I was making, regular job money, which was good and helped me with a lot of stuff. But essentially decided to leave it to, chase happiness, which, like, is always, people are always going to question when you take away financial security for something that you enjoy, right? Because it's not like a secure lifestyle. Yeah. But it can be in the future if you trust your plan and what you have. Well, you trust God's plan, I should say, and that, it's going to work out. So I haven't, ever since I moved home, it's been a lot of, like, the biggest concern has been money, but I'm someone who knows that's not a concern. Like, it's going to come and it's going to happen. So I'm a big believer in do what you love, chase what you love, but do it in a smart way. Like, don't be like, I want to be an actor and have never read an acting book, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like don't just blindly chase something that you think would be cool, but you've never, like, learned about it before. Like, go after what you love if it's something that you dedicate a lot of time to, and then I think things tend to pan out.
Yeah, I got a verse for you that's on this topic. It is, let's see, Proverbs 16:9. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. That's true.
There's another verse like that too. Let me see. One sec. I want to pull that one up. Okay. This one is another proverb. Proverbs 19:21. Let me pull that up real quick. I think this was the one I was initially looking for. They're both kind of mean the same thing. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. I think for people who don't have, I think some people, to them, work is what their life is. That's what they find their purpose in their job, and they don't have some form of faith or purpose in another way. So for them, what you and I are doing in terms of not having that typical nice job out of college with nice money, they look at it and they think like there's something wrong with that. Everyone has their own life. Everything's different, but it's hard for them to understand how you can be joyful and thankful in these circumstances that you and I are both in.
Yeah, it's true. We do get caught up a lot in work and the things of everyday life, but I'll tell you, man, it is great to get to a place where you feel like you have something more to work for and to live for than just a dollar. And
yeah,
I understand the perspective of people that don't have faith or any of that, because there are a lot of people out there like that. It's true. And that is what it is. What it is. It's cool. But the fact is that, like, if you're living just for money, I think that's where things get dangerous. I think you're always going to come up short of your own expectations, because you can always make more money, right? But sometimes you can't make more memories. And by that, I mean you can't get back times where, you were however many years old, younger, and, you can't go hang out with that friend that you used to always hang out with because you guys don't talk anymore. Like, you can't go see that family member who's aging a little bit because they, you were working and they passed away. Like, there's a lot of things that moments in life, I think, are more important than, money and stability and those kinds of things. But other people tell you otherwise. I disagree, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and if anyone who's listening to this and they're going through a rough time, and look, I've been through some really rough times with anxiety and a little bit of depression here and there, and also with health issues. If you ever want to talk about anything, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is @thejackvita. I'd love to talk, and if there's any way I can help or I can pray for you, feel free to send me a message on there. My DMs are open. And Parker, I know you love talking to people as well, so.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, I'm always open to talk with anyone, and not even because I think sometimes like, people be turned off by like, oh, I don't want someone to just talk at me and give me advice. Like, I very much enjoy just listening to people,
Yeah.
So yeah, always open to just being an ear, for sure.
Yeah, it's people like to talk badly about social media, and rightfully so sometimes. I mean, there's a lot of negativity out there, but one thing that I've noticed is that social media is a really cool opportunity to connect with some people that you would not normally meet. And I've made some friends through social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm very thankful for those friends. And I think, like anything, social media can be used positively, it can be used negatively, and I try to use it positively, and if I can help anyone or just listen to you, make friends with you, or if you're just interested in talking about this kind of life and philosophical stuff, you can always reach me on there.
Completely. Absolutely.
Okay, Parker, last thing. How excited are you for American Ninja Warrior?
Oh, man. Holy smokes. Well, Jack, it is Wednesday, so let me just tell you, the season starts today, and that is extremely exciting. I am overjoyed. It's there are huge changes this year, and actually, you want to know you want to know some inside info, Jack, about the show?
Yeah, of course.
So when you kind of get more integrated in the community and work at a gym and know people that work at a gym and have been on the show for years and years and years and all that stuff, those of us in the community, we get to know information before it comes out.
Oh.
Yes. Like I had access to the closest qualifying city closest to me in Orlando was Atlanta. So, like, for me, I didn't personally have it, but a really close friend of mine could have gave me access to the list of how every person in the Atlanta qualifiers finished. Like, that kind of and obviously, like, I was like, I'm good. I wanted to find out about our people because we had people from our gym that went on the show, so I wanted to know how they did because everyone else was going to know. But you can find out those kinds of things, and you can also find out what is going to be new on the show, like what obstacles are new, what ideas are new, concepts, rules. So if for anyone listening, if you ever wanted to start training Ninja Warrior, if you don't want to do it for the obstacles, do it for the info because you'll find out stuff. All right, like it's very exciting, and I know a good amount of the changes that are happening this year. There are also some stuff I don't know, so that's exciting. But it is really cool that the season is finally upon us. It technically Sunday was last season, but Sunday was the All-Star special. So that was an amazing showcase, and I don't know how humans like that exist. I would like to be one, hopefully one day. But season, it's starting. I'm trying to remember which city is first. Let's see, season premiere. I want to say it's LA, but I do not know, to be completely honest. But I'm excited either way because the storylines are always really fun. And it is LA. It's Universal City, California. So it'll be really cool. I have friends that made the show this year, a good amount of friends that made the show this year. So I can't wait to watch them. Obviously, the bigger names in the sport will be very exciting to see. The national finals that take place in Las Vegas are going to be filmed here pretty soon, so I'm probably going to go to that and watch live what happens.
Wow.
But
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. So yeah, man, that'll be great. For people that follow American Ninja Warrior, the hierarchy and like the best ninjas in the world, it's a really interesting time because I think for the past few years, ever since we had a champion on season 7, I think after that, I think seasons 9 and 10 specifically, I think there was a clear-cut best ninja in the world, Drew Dreshel. And I think now it's really close. Whereas it wasn't before. I think.
So it's like the NBA.
Yes, exactly like that. Great comparison. Like now it's like it's Drew and there's this guy named Adam Rail who is a friggin' monster. And there's a lot of other dudes too. Like I think race for best ninja in the world is closer than it is for best basketball player in the world. But I'm excited to see who's the last man standing this year. Also, someone one of the people who cleared all 4 final stages in season 7. His name's Jeff Britton. He did not win the $1 million because his time was 3 seconds three seconds slower than the guy who did win. But he was one of 2 people to ever complete the whole thing. He returns. He stopped. He did not do last year, so he returns this year. So I'm excited to see him come back, and hopefully he's the same competitor he was before. And you probably couldn't tell, but I'm like really excited.
Yeah, it's on Wednesday nights, or is it on any other nights?
Yeah, it starts out Wednesday nights, and then usually like a couple episodes in, it switches to Mondays. So it'll start Wednesday today, May 29th. Yep, and then I don't know if it'll change next week or if it'll change in a couple weeks, but they usually switch it over from Wednesdays to Mondays, and the time I want to say is 8/7 Central.
All right, cool. So we'll have to set the DVRs for that. Ninja's typically something where when I see it's on, it's on.
Yeah.
I don't watch it avidly, but it's always a good watch. So it'll be fun to watch, and I love hearing the enthusiasm on your end. Also, I should tell you, because I know you have not watched the challenge on MTV, which Rachel and I talked about last week.
Right.
But Natalie Duran, that's her name, correct?
Yeah, Natalie Duran.
Yeah, Duran. So she competed on the challenge, and she finished 4th place and was the last woman standing on there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, she's hilarious. She's a really cool person. I've seen her at when I was on the show on season 9, she did obstacle course testing. She tested the obstacles before we went on.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So did you get to talk to her?
No. Because for competitors, we weren't technically allowed to go in and see the testing happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome. So, have you gotten to check out any of these ninja imitators? Because it seems these other networks, you've got the Titan Games, the $1 Million Mile. Have you checked those out? What do you think?
I have checked out the Titan Games. They're cool. They're very cool. Beastmaster, another one that's very cool. I haven't watched $1 Million Mile yet, which I want to. I have friends that have submitted for the next season of $1 Million Mile.
So they are making another season,
I believe. Yes.
Yeah, I know it got bumped out of the time slot because it didn't do very well. So it got moved to they put it right after Survivor, which is, believe it or not, still either the number 1 or number 2 most watched reality show.
Which
is crazy. And I've seen every season now. So they put it on after Survivor, hoping to get Survivor's audience. Did not do very well after 2 weeks. So then they swapped it with The Amazing Race, put The Amazing Race in that spot. Amazing Race has been killing it in that time slot. Those 2 shows have been really cool back-to-back. Now Survivor's done for the summer. However, they moved the $1 Million Mile over to Saturday night, so I was not sure. I mean, that's not the best time slot. I was just wondering how the show had been doing, and so they are going to have another season, I guess.
I believe so, but obviously, that could change at any instance. I heard they were going to have another season because I think one of my friends submitted for the next season. But
okay,
I wouldn't quote me on that.
Okay,
just not for sure.
Yeah,
but possibility.
So the plan is they are going to have one. However, that could change whenever.
Yes,
but the network could change that at any point.
Correct.
Okay, so that's interesting. Lots of interesting stuff here. Did you ever watch Wipeout?
Oh, dude, of course. Absolutely. That's the most. That show is hilarious, but also the people that do well on it, it can be tough to do.
So that's kind of like the comical version of Ninja.
Yeah. commentating's hilarious. The obstacles are, more funny. The results are way more hilarious. Like, yeah. Were you ever a big Wipeout guy?
I used to watch it all the time. I mean, that was like 10 years ago. That would have been around 2008 when it was new, 2009. But there's a show that's going to start soon. I just saw the ad the other day. I'm looking it up right now, and it looks like a Wipeout type show, and it's like mini golf.
Oh, you know what? I saw that, and I thought about submitting for that show.
Oh, man.
I did.
That looks so fun.
It looks very, very interesting. And then I was looking into kind of the rules, and I was like, oh, man, people that submit for this, they're going to be, like, serious, like, for real, for real. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, it seems that way anyway. So, yeah, I don't know. Might have to head down to the old putting green and work on some things,
Also, broadcasting this on play-by-play, you've got Joe Tessitore and color commentary Rob Riggle.
Oh, man.
That's perfect.
That is that's solid. That the show is set up for success.
Indeed. You mentioned golf. If you come out here to the Midwest anytime soon, can we play 9 holes?
Oh, dude, absolutely. I would love to. Yes. I hit a bucket of balls the other day and felt phenomenal. So I would love to. That would be sensational.
Awesome. Yeah, we could get Tommy out there and I don't know, maybe Stem. If Stem's in the Midwest at the same time.
Yeah, man. Shoot. Yeah. Just the whole Valpo reunion. Like, those seem to happen quite frequently, so. Yeah, man.
Well, they seem to happen on this podcast pretty often now.
Right. Yeah, for real. That's
all right,
awesome.
Well, Parker, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. Lastly, do you want to plug your social media, your YouTube channel, anything?
Sure, man. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I am Parker B. Gatewood on Instagram and Twitter. I'm just Parker Gatewood on Facebook. You can find me there. You can follow me on YouTube. I haven't posted a video in a while, but I'm Parker Gatewood there as well. And follow, check me out on Instagram. That's where most of the stuff happens. That's where I'll post stuff about coaching and Ninja and all that. And yeah, that's about it.
You're Parker Gatewood, and you like to have fun.
Oh man, still true. Still today. You bet.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'll definitely have to have you come on at some point, maybe during the off season with some of the player movement like we did last year, or when the season starts up again in the fall. Thank you so much. Really appreciated it, and this was a lot of fun.
Dude, Jack, I can't thank you enough, man. It's always a pleasure to be on your podcast, and you are sensational at what you do, and again, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Very kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Parker Gatewood had a great time talking about a lot of different things today, mainly NBA, but it was fun to talk about life, fun to get into some of the Ninja stuff and TV. I hope you liked this episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe to Press on Sports on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We have a YouTube channel. We got Spotify. Follow along there, and you will never miss an episode. You'll always be up to date when there's fresh content available. You can tweet me your thoughts at @TheJackVita. That's at @TheJackVita. You can follow me there. Tweet at me. Would love to hear your thoughts on everything going on with Kawhi and the NBA Finals, and I'll be tweeting along during these finals. It should be a lot of fun. You can find Parker on there as well. Thank you to everyone for listening to this podcast. Appreciate it as always. That's it for this edition. We'll see you next time. Bring in the Dancing Lobsters.